This is just continuation of the LAMPSTACK. Now in this section, we are going to be looking at the project itself. To do that, I decided to make your work very easy. I went ahead and prepared what we call a Git repository. This Git repository contains, of course, information that we are going to need to be able to complete the LAMPSTACK project. Now, what do you need to do? Of course, this link is going to be shared with you in the video. When you get the link, you need to click on the link. Of course, when you click on the link, it's going to lead you to, you're going to come to something like this. It's going to open up and it's going to open in the GitHub. What is GitHub? GitHub is nothing but is an online storage for Git repository. As you can see, this is how it's going to look like. Now, when you get to this point, of course, you need to have a GitHub account and you need to log in into your GitHub account. After doing that, you need to come and fork this. All you need to do is to click on fork. Of course, I can't do it because this is my own repository. When you click on the fork, it's going to give you a series of steps. And now all you need to do is to follow the steps until the end. And this repository is going to become yours. It's like a way to copy this repository and make it yours so that you can easily clone it. Now, at this point, what do we need to do? We are going to stop at this point, and then, of course, we are going to go to AWS. Why do we need to go to AWS? Because that is where we are going to create our infrastructure, specifically our first layer, which is nothing but the Linux operating system, which means we have to go in AWS and manually create an operating system. Of course, this is not recommended as a DevOps engineer because this should be done automatically. You should automate this process. Why? Because when you automate, you create consistency, and also, of course, you are able to enhance efficiency, increase the speed, and at the same time, increase productivity. But we are not yet there, so we are just going to do this process manually. To do that, I'm going to go to my AWS account. I'm going to make sure that I'm sharing this information. Yes. So now we come here, AWS free tier account. We are not going to use anything else, but free tier account is enough for this project. Now I'm going to log in quickly. Sign in. And all of a sudden, I'm now inside the AWS Management Console. What do you need to do here? There are a few things we are going to do, and of course, you just need to follow them so that you're able to execute this project. The first thing you need to know is that we have to create an operating system. An operating system is very similar to saying we need to create a server. In this case, we are going to create an Ubuntu server. But we have to remember that a server cannot exist without a network. In AWS, the network is what we call VPC. So we are going to, of course, you have to come here at the search, and of course, you have to search for VPC services. And in VPC, of course, it's going to come something like this. You click on the first one, and it's going to take you to the VPC console. In the VPC console, you have many other components that are connected to the VPC. But this is the source of network. And after creating this network is where we are going to go create an instance and put it inside of this network. Without this network, we cannot be able to operate an instance. And that instance is what is going to give us what we need, which is the operating system. And the name specifically is going to be the Ubuntu flavor. Now let's get started. How do you do this? Of course, it's manually. In real sense, in the company, we shouldn't be doing things manually. But at this point, we are going to do it manually. If you want to know how to automate the provisioning of infrastructure on AWS, you need to register with us. We can help you to do that. So to get started is very easy. You just need to come here and click on Create VPC. Of course, we are going to create VPC and more because we just don't need VPC alone. We also need subnets. I want you to look at a VPC network as your room. Look at your house. And you can see that your house has different kind of rooms. Those rooms are what we call subnets. And it is in those subnets we are going to put our instance. In our case, we are creating a web server. I want you to specifically understand that a web server is exposed to the public network. Therefore, we have two types of subnets. We have the public and we have the private. Because this is nothing but a web server, we have to put it in the public subnet. Now we come here, we can name it anything. Let's name it LAMPSTACK network. Yes, of course, it's going to give you the CID. I'm not going to go deep into that. I'm not going to go deep into the numbers of IPs. That's something we cover deep into the course. But in this case, I'm just trying to create an operating system. We have availability zones. Availability zones, again, I'm not going to go deep into that. Just understand, we are going to have those zones. Again, we have subnets. Subnets are nothing, but they are just smaller network of the bigger network called VPC. Now, in this case, we're going to have both public and private. And now here, we are going to have two public and two private. You can increase the number if you want. Specifically, you can increase the number of private, but in this case, it's not necessary. We have a NAT gateway. In this case, we don't need NAT gateway because the NAT gateway is used, of course, to help the instances that are actually in the private subnet to be able to access the public network. We don't need that. And the reason we don't need that is because our web server is going to be in the public subnet. So it's already going to be having access to the public network. And after that, there is nothing much. You can see a diagram here is giving you exactly how things will look like. As you can see, we have two zones. We have US East 1A, US East 1B. Now, all we need to do is to create the VPC. Well, as you can see, it looks easy, but this is manual again. This is not how we are supposed to do it. We should be automating this. Let's view the VPC. As you can see now, this VPC has been created for us. The network is ready for us to use. Let's come to your VPC and see. Yes, as you can see, it is now here for us. If you click on it, you can see more details. Of course, you can see all the details you need to know, how many subnets, etc. Now, since this is available, it is now time for us to go and create what we call an operating system. To do that, again, AWS is so easy to navigate. You just need to come here to search and look for EC2. EC2 is nothing but is a virtual server in the AWS cloud. Of course, you click on EC2 and it's going to take you straight to the EC2 console. In this case, we want to launch a new operating system or a new instance, which is going to have to contain operating system. So we just have to come here and say launch instance. Well, it's going to come here and will take you to this window. In this window, we need to give this a name. We can say LAMPSTACK project. You can add more information. You can customize it in accordance to your need. Now, this is where we need to pay attention. You can now start to see that we have different kind of operating system. Yes, the operating system remains different kind of them. We have Amazon, Mac OS, Ubuntu, Windows, Red Hat, okay? For in our case, we already know we need Ubuntu. So nothing we need to do much, but click on Ubuntu. We just selected Ubuntu, and it's going to give us that it's going to give 22. We're going to have Ubuntu 22. And LTS stands for long-term support. So it's something that is receiving a long-term support. You don't need to do anything else. You just need to move forward and go to the instance type. The instance type, there are many types of instances. They are all based on the size. As you can see, we have T2 micro, which we qualify because we are on a free tier account. In this case, it has one vCPU, which is nothing but a virtual CPU. We have 1 GB of memory. That's all, is a very tiny one. However, it will do the job. So we'll leave it at that size. Now we come to something that is very vital. We need to pay a lot of attention here because we don't want to miss this. Now, this point, we need a key pair. What is a key pair? It's nothing but is just the key that is going to help you specifically when you are trying to SSH into this instance. It's nothing but is a key we need. In this case, I want us to create a key. So to create a key, of course, you click on that section and it's going to ask you to give the key the name. You give it LAMPSTACK project practice. You can give it any name you want, but this is the name I'm going to go with. It has to be RSA, which is encrypted, private, and public key pairs. So it's going to be 2, and they are all encrypted. I want you to make sure that you don't use PPK, because if you use PPK, we have to use pulley. But in my case, and in this project, I don't want us to use pulley. We are going to use pen key. Now, if you have done all this, it's now time to go and create your key pair. Click on create key pair, and all of a sudden, your key pair is created and is downloaded in whichever location that you chose. In my case, I chose to be downloaded in Visual Studio Code. However, what I'm going to do, I'll transfer this one file and I'll save it. And I'm going to save it in my desktop. And I'll tell you why I need to save it in the desktop later on when we are trying to SSH into this instance. And I'll recommend wherever your key pair is going to be downloaded, make sure you go to that location and transfer or save that key pair specifically in your desktop. In my case, as you can see, I'm now about to save it, this key pair, in my desktop. Yes, we have that is something that is encrypted. It's private and encrypted. Yes, as you can see, we don't even know all this, but it's a very small password, but is encrypted with all this information. Of course, it makes it very secure. So that's what it means by the word encryption. Now we are done. I have saved it in the desktop. I'll go there later on. But for now, let's continue. Now we go back. Since we already, of course, created this key pair, you can see that it has already been selected for us. So we are done with that. Now we move to the next one. And the next part is the network setting. This is where you need to be extra careful. We have, of course, to come and click on edit. And in the edit section, I want you to choose exactly the network that we created. The network, of course, they are going to be here, but you can choose different one. Yes, we created LAMPSTACK network VPC. You click on it, and of course, it's going to give you subnets. In this case, it's giving us what we need. And what do we need? We need a public network, as a public subnet. Sorry, not network, a public subnet. Yes, we have it. Don't use private, because if you use private, you'll not be able to access this instance. Now, here is another point that you need to make sure you don't leave without changing this. Of course, it's saying that auto-assign public IP. If you disable this, you're gonna be forced, of course, to find a way to access your instance through the internet. We don't want that. We want, of course, to have the public IP so that we can be able to access this instance on the public network. And what do? Nothing more than just enable this. We are almost there. Now you continue. Of course, we have what we call security groups, which is used, of course, to manage the firewalls. Firewalls are nothing, but they are used to control the traffic that are coming in and out of the instance. In this case, we have SSH. However, we are going to be using LAMPSTACK. So we are going to have Apache here. And all we know is that Apache is usually going to be accessible through port 80. But in this case, I won't open port 80. I'll leave it as it is, then we'll come later on and see how we are going to solve this. And now there's nothing else to do but to launch our instance. All right, as you can see, you don't need to do anything else. You just need to come and click on this ID of the instance. And when you do that, of course, you are going to see that we do have it here created. I can refresh this, or I can refresh it here. Either way, doesn't matter. Now, it's pending, of course, because it's in the process of being provisioned. So we'll give it a little bit of time, and we'll keep refreshing this to make sure now it is in the running state. Now, what do we need to do here? There are a couple ways you can be able to SSH or access the terminal of this instance. And to be able to do that, first of all, you must highlight your instance. To highlight the instance, I don't mean you come and highlight it like that. No, I mean you come and click inside the square box. That's what I mean by the word highlighted. As you can see, we are able to see more information about this instance. For instance, we can see that this instance has now the public IPv4, which means we'll be able to access it on the internet, because the internet is nothing but is a public network. It also have a DNS, and DNS and public IP, the difference is that DNS is usually more secure. Now, what do we need to do from here? To be able to access this, you need to, of course, you need to highlight it. After you highlight this, you need to come to connect. As you can see, this is connect. You click on connect, and here you are going to see so many options. EC2 instance connect, session manager, SSH client, EC2 serial console. Our main focus is going to be SSH, but however, can we try to see whether we can connect with EC2 instance connect? Maybe, who knows? How do you try this? You're going to come here and click on this. Click on this. Of course, it's going to give you all this information or this. Then come here at the bottom and just say connect. Of course, it's going to open a new window. And as you can see, something is happening. Well, we have connected. So you can do this too. So I'm going to become the root by saying sudo superuser do su, which stands for switch user. And all of a sudden, I'm now the root. So I can connect that way. But that's not how I didn't want to connect. I want to connect specifically through SSH, and I want to use my SSH client. And in our case, we are going to use Visual Studio Code as our SSH client. Why is Visual Studio Code a great tool to use? Because it's going to give us two ways to function. One, we'll be able to have the editor at the top, and we'll be able to have the terminal at the bottom. And that's very vital for this project. So since we are not going to use this, we'll just go back here. We'll cancel this. We don't need to connect that way. And then we are going to come here and highlight this again. And now come back to connect. And this time we'll use SSH. Now we need to follow the steps that we are given here for SSH purpose. The first step, of course, is open an SSH client. Now, what do we do? I mean, we are being told to open SSH client. In our case, we say that our SSH client is going to be Visual Studio Code. Yes, that's what we are going to open. Locate your private key file, the key used to launch the instance that we are using. You must have that key with you, otherwise you'll not be able to SSH. Run this command, chmod 400, to make sure that this PEM key is private. And finally, You can copy this command and paste, and you'll be able to connect. So, well, a lot of information, but it's very easy. Remember, when we downloaded the PEM key, I told you specifically to save your PEM key in your desktop. Why? Because when we come to this stage, if you don't follow the steps easily as I'm going to put them here, you are likely to get lost. So the first thing I'm going to do is to minimize everything. I'm going to minimize everything. And after minimizing, I'm now going to come here and I'm going to be in what we call my desktop. This is my desktop. Well, can I see my PEM key? Yes, this is my PEM key. I'm going to bring it here so that you can see it. Now, what I need to do is to right-click on this, right-click on my desktop, and I'm going to create a new folder. And this folder, I'm going to call it LAMPSTACK project. Now say enter. After that, this is a very vital step. I'm going to come to where my PEM key is, and you can do this in any way that you want, and I'll move it inside of this folder. I'm just going to move it inside of this folder, as you can see. And after doing that, I'm going to come back here and I will right-click on this. After right-clicking on this, I'm going to come all the way here to the bottom and I'll look for something we call show more options and I'll click on it. And when I do that, a few things are popping out. Let me do it again because it kind of got distracted. So now it's like that. A few more things are popping out. Now here, I'm going to go with open git bash. Yes. And when I do that, and then I do ls, which means nothing but list the content of the folder you are in, I should be able to see my PEM key. They are my PEM key. However, I want to work on the Visual Studio Code and not in the git bash. What do? There is a secret command called code and then dot. So if I enter this, you're going to see some magic happen here, and we're going to have our Visual Studio Code open. It's going to just open for us, as you can see. I don't need the welcome window, and I don't need this. And as you can see now, this is the name of the folder. And as you can see, here is our PEM key. This is the same PEM key we saw when we downloaded this. Don't forget that. Now, what do we need to do up to this point? Up to this point, I'm going, of course, to kind of remove that section of the window so that I can have a bigger screen. Now, in this case, you just need to come here. You can see the 3 dots. Maybe yours, you don't have the 3 dots, but mine is hidden. So I'll click on these 3 dots and I'll come to the terminal and I'll say new terminal. Well, a few terminals opened. I don't need them. So I'm going to just close them and I'm left with this one. You can still work on here, but for my case, I want to use the git bash. It's nothing but it's just a terminal that is more specific to the bash. Now, if I run the ls, I should be able to see my PEM key here. And this is the step where you are told, make sure you can locate your private key file. After doing that, we go to number 3. We copy this. We come here. We don't need this. We come back here and paste it here. If you do this, if you paste and enter and you have an error, then there is something that is not going well. So you need to check exactly the logs you are getting. So we are done with that step. We come back here, and now we don't need to do anything else except to come straight to this example that is going to help us to SSH. All we need to do is to come and paste and enter. Say yes. And surely we are now inside of this instance. Now, if I do, I'm going to here become the root, definitely sudo su, and that's how it looks like. We have now been able to SSH. And after being able to SSH, now we can move to the second point of this project. And that second point is come back to your repository that you are able to fork and come to this location where you can see the code, click on it, and it's going to expand and give you a new window. And in this window, I want you to focus on HTTPS, and I want you to just copy this link. Then come here, make sure you have Git. How can you do this? You can just type the word Git to see whether you have the Git binaries. Well, you do have the Git binaries, very good. So now, since the Git is here, if in your case you don't see the Git binaries, if you are going to, of course, type the Git, and of course you enter and you have an error, you can just install the Git. But in our case, Git is installed. We can also try to see whether we can see the version. If it's given us trouble with that, we can try that. If it's still giving us trouble, we can try to add another hyphen here. Yeah, and it's able to give us exactly the Git version. As you can see, the version is 2.341. We are done with that. Since Git is here, we are going to clone this repository. What does cloning mean? It means that now we are going to get this repository from the GitHub, where it is located in the internet, and we are going to bring it in our own local computer. So git clone, that is the command, and paste the link that you copied from the GitHub. Enter. And when you do that, then you clear. If you do ls, you are going to see this folder is now with us. Where did this folder come from? If you follow me carefully, you are going to see where it came from. Here it is. This is the folder, LAMPSTACK tutorial. If you come back to your terminal, you can see this folder, LAMPSTACK tutorial. All you need to do before you can do anything is to cd. You need to change directory and enter into this folder. ls. Now you can see all the information that we have here is also available here. As I said before, we have patch management script is a bash script, PHP script, MySQL script, WordPress script, and then of course we have how to configure WordPress script, and then we have tables. This is nothing, but this is a database script. Or technically, this is a SQL script. Now we come here and we're going to start with the first one. So let's open the first script and see what is happening. If you open this one, you are going to see that there is nothing much that is going on with this script. This script is just updating, upgrading, removing unnecessary packages, cleaning up the cache. That's all it is doing. 4 things in one: update, upgrade, auto remove, and clean. I want you to remind you that every bash script is always going to have this line. This is nothing but what we call shebang, or what we call shebang. So this is nothing but it's just giving us the environment in which the script is going to be executed in. Since we have it on the terminal, it's very simple. We're going to come here, and first of all, remember, this is a script. We need to give it an execution power. So to give it an execution power permission is very simple. We're going to use the command chmod plus we can use +X, which is execution, and the name, of course, the name of the script. Tab it. All right, good. So now here we go. You enter, clear this, we do ls, and you can see that now this script is green because it's ready to go. It has been given the execution permission. Now, how do you run the script? It is // and the name of the script. Tab it and enter. Yes, scripts are very important, especially to DevOps engineers, because we can use them for automation. As you can see, we are automating the process of patch management in the server. Just giving it time to finish. Still doing all the tasks we saw, updating, upgrading, auto removing unnecessary plugins, and of course, cleaning the cache. Of course, if something like this comes, just enter. Well, it is done. As you can see, you are given information like 0 upgraded, 0 newly installed, 0 to remove, and 0 not upgraded. So we clear this, and we are done with that. Script 1 is done. Now we go to the second one. Again, we go back here, and we look at the second. You see, these scripts have numbers. So the second one is for PHP. Remember what we said about PHP. About PHP, we say that PHP is nothing but is used for managing and creation of what we call dynamic content of our web application or website. So you click on it, and it's going to tell you exactly how to install it. In this case, we are going to install PHP. We are also going to install Apache PHP module. Again, we are also going to verify that PHP version has been installed. The version that has been installed, we are going to look at it. And of course, we are going to install additional PHP extension that we are going to need for this project. And that's all. When everything is done, we should get a message saying PHP installation and extension setup completed. Okay, we go back to the terminal. We do ls. Of course, we can see that php.sh is not green, so it needs to be given execution permission. Gmod +X, and then, of course, to tab it, enter. Now, if we do ls, good, it's now green. It means that now it has execution permission. Again, we run it the same way, // and then we enter. So when we enter, of course, again, we're automating the process. So it's going to just do this process for us. We don't have to do anything manually. This is why our scripts are very good in automation of the task, specifically the installation of packages. Again, if something like this comes, you just enter. Enter. Same thing, enter. Yes, now it's done. And of course, if you come here and say PHP is a binary, we should be able to see some information. It's taking a little long. You can just do Control Z, going to do PHP-V. And of course, we can see that now PHP has been installed. We clear this. Good job. Now we go back and we see now what next. Now in this case, we are going to install our database. Our database in this case is MySQL. I would like us, of course, to run this command manually. So it means instead of running the script, this one I'll prefer we come and do it manually. You copy the command, you come here, you paste, enter. That is done. You come back, you get the second command. Of course, this is to install MySQL server. Copy, you come back here, you paste. Now installing MySQL. Enter. All right, it's done. So now we come back here. Of course, there is more to do. Secure MySQL installation. To secure, just need to copy this command. You come back here to the terminal and paste it. And now it's going to ask you some questions. Press Y for yes, any other key for no. It's just trying to validate. In this case, we can say yes. And in this case, you don't have to worry. We can go with 0. This doesn't matter so much. Remove anonymous users. Yes. Disallow root login. I will say, let's say no for this. And remove test database. Yes. Reload privilege tables. Yes. And all done. So we are done with that. Now, what do we do here? Let's see whether MySQL has been installed. Of course, if you do that, you type MySQL, now you enter into the MySQL terminal. At this point, we are not going to do anything. We just exit. All right, so that is done. Now we have done 3 starts. We started with Linux, we got our Ubuntu, we went to Apache. No, we haven't done Apache. We went to PHP, which is used for creating the dynamic content. Now we have done MySQL. Let's see what else we need to do. And of course, at this point, you can see everything is done, but there is something we need to continue to do. This is what we did. We need to continue to do a few things here. Since MySQL has been installed, we need to create a WordPress user for the database on the local host. To do that, you just need to copy this command. And remember, MySQL commands usually have semicolon. So you type MySQL, now you're in. You can, of course, you can always clear the screen for MySQL by doing Control X. Now in this case, I'm going to paste this command. As you can see, here we have, it should be create, not, should be create, capital C, or create. All right, let's clear this. Let's go back and do it again. MySQL, yes. So when you enter, you come back here and you copy this command as it is. Don't copy with MySQL because that is just to tell you how the command should look like on the MySQL terminal. As you can see, MySQL is already here. You just paste, and in this case, you creating a user WordPress at localhost, and it's identified by this. You can change whatever identified with, but I'm going to stay with this. Enter. Of course, that is done. You come back here. You need to grant privileges to this user. So to do that, you need to copy that. Then you need to come here and enter. Enter. The user has been granted all the permissions. Then you need to come here after you do all that. You need to come and create a database. To create a database in MySQL is very simple. You just use the command create database and the name of the database. In this case, the name of the database is nothing but WordPress DB. Enter. And if you want to see whether the database exists, you can easily just come here and just type show databases. Remember, this command has semicolon, enter, and you can see that this database has actually been created for you. Yeah, so now from here, we continue. It says all you need to do is exit. And we are done with installation of MySQL and also creating the user and also giving the user or granting the user the privileges. So we are done with that. Now next, we come to the WordPress. Why do we need a WordPress? We need WordPress because if we are going to be creating the website content, the content of our website and web application, we do need WordPress to help us to do that. In this case, definitely we are going to do that at some point. So let's see how we can install WordPress and how to configure it. Now to do that, of course, this is all the stuff you need to do. So we are going to, of course, to change directory and carry out all this process. After this, I believe we are going to have to configure this. But before we go forward, we are the WordPress. I want us to come here and check something. Because remember, when we were working with PHP, we did install Apache. So let's see whether Apache exists. To be able to do that, we can do systemctl status Apache 2, and you can see that Apache is actually installed because when we ran the command when we were installing PHP, this Apache was installed, and it's specifically Apache 2. And this is how you can check whether it is up and running. However, if we want to have it deliver the content on the browser, we need to come back to our AWS, go back to where the instance is. You can come back here. Let's go back to our instance. Here is the instance highlighted. Come pick this. You can pick DNS or you can pick the public IP, come on the browser, paste it on the browser and see what will happen. As you can see, it is trying to access, it's saying it's not secure. This is all because of the firewall that I have on my gadget. But let's see what will happen. I'm still gonna say continue, but unfortunately something is happening here. We are not able to have Apache deliver the content to us on the browser. So what might be wrong? How can we troubleshoot this? To be able to troubleshoot this, there is something we need to do. First, and this is what should come to your mind, the first thing is to check whether the port is open, because we all know that Apache always connect at port 80. How do we check this on AWS? On the instance that is on AWS, it's very easy. We're going to go back to AWS. We'll come back to this instance, and carefully we are going to come to security. Security is where we find the firewalls. And in this case, we have security groups that is used to manage the firewalls. You click on it, and when you do so, it's going to give you exactly the firewalls that are open, especially the inbound. And in this case, we only have SSH. Truly, port 80 does not exist. So what do? We're going to have to add it. To be able to add port 80, we have to say edit inbound. When you do that, now it will give you another window where we can easily add port 80. To do that, add the rule. Of course, you can come here and click, and you should be able to see HTTP. Good. Port 80 is there by default. Custom. We wanted to connect from anywhere as far as you have port 80 or you qualify for that. And then all you need to do is save. When you do that, now let's come back to our browser and let's refresh and see whether Apache is going to be able to show us the testing page, which is going to be a confirmation that Apache is able to deliver the content to the browser. Let's do that. And now we go. As you can see now, here, we are now able to deliver the content to your browser or to my browser. This is Apache testing site or testing page, which help us, of course, to be able to know that Apache is working. So we are done with that layer. So we have done Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. Now, we're going to move to WordPress. Yes, we didn't see WordPress, of course, when we were going through the LAMPSTACK, but WordPress is very important, especially when it comes to content management. If you want to put content on your web application or your website, WordPress is a very important tool. So we are going to install it. To do that, we go back here, we clear this. Now we do ls, and here it is. So I'm going to use it. So all I need is to do chmod +x, tab it, enter, clear this again, ls. Now we just need to run the script, which is // and the name of the script, and enter. And as you can see, it's just going to automate the whole process of installing, packaging the WordPress. It seems like it's done. So we clear this. It's a lot that was done. It seemed like it was very quick, but it's not. Let me show you exactly what was done. We go back here, and we see what was exactly done. So we had change of directory. We had wget, of course, was used to download this gzipped file. Then it was unzipped. Then, of course, we had to give multiple permissions, of course. And of course, from there, we give multiple permissions, as you can see. All this. Now, from there, we can move to the PHP configuration. So we are going to come and configure the PHP. So we are done with WordPress. That's done. Now we come to configure the PHP. We can do the same thing, but I'll have this to be done manually because there are a couple of things I want you to master here, especially on how to use the editors, specifically the terminal editors. So to do that, we first of all have to enter into the WordPress directory. To do that, we go into cd into this we're going to cd into this chain of folders, and we just need to come and do that and enter. Now from there, we need to move this one into this one. So let's first of all see how this is happening. We do ls, and you can see now we need to move wp config sample php wp config. We are looking at it, wp config. We need to move it. We need to move that into wconfig.php. I'm sure this does not exist, but it's going to be created automatically. So we copy this, mv means move, and we paste it here and enter. That has happened. Now we can use any editor that we want. In my case, I'm going to use VI. I'm not going to use Nano because some students don't like Nano. Most students like VI. So let's go with VI. So we are going to say VI this file. So I'm going to clear the screen and I'll say VI, then I'll paste the name of the file and I'll enter. Now, this is PHP. This is nothing but PHP. As you can see, we are going to edit using Nano, and we are editing this information so that we can add the necessary MySQL setting into this PHP file, okay? Now to do that, of course, you have to go on your keyboard, and in your keyboard, I want you to look for letter I. Letter I stands for insert, and you just need to press it. When you press it, you are going to see that the word insert is going to appear inside of this editor, as you can see here. Now, you are ready to add information. You scroll down, and this is where we are going to start. We're going to start with the DB name. Remember, we created the DB name, which we called the WordPress DB. So we come back here. This information is all given to you. You just need to copy that. Then you come back here, and you are going to put that one here. DB name. Then, of course, next, we need to get the database username. Again, we created this, if you remember. And this is it, which is WordPress at local, which is nothing but just WordPress. Now you come down here. Of course, you cannot move with your cursor. I see some people trying to move with the cursor. No, you move in this, in the editor, you move with the arrows. Of course, again, you paste it. Now, we're going to put our password. Again, this is something we did. We go and get the password. Everything you need is in this Git repository. And this is, of course, the password. Yes. Now, the rest of the information is the same, so you don't need to do anything. That's all. Now, we need to save this information. This is another trouble that some students have. How do you save this? First of all, you have to remember that you are still in the insert mode. So you have to remove the insert. How do I do that? I have to go on my keyboard and I have to look for escape, ESC. Click on it, go to the shift, colon. Of course, when you do that, you are going to see colon appear. Type letter X, not uppercase X, is a small or lowercase x. And then, of course, shift and 1, which give you exclamation mark, and enter. That's all you need to do. If you follow that, you'll not have any trouble. And we are done. We have been able to configure the WordPress into the PHP configuration file. Now, what do we do next? Up to that point, we are good to go. Now, what we need to do, is to go back to the Apache testing page, this page, and we need to add /, and we are going to add a directory name called WordPress and see what will happen. Now you can see, because we were able to connect the WordPress, and you can see here now we are able to connect it with PHP and all that, and add it into the PHP configuration. Now we can easily come here and configure our website. In this case, as we said, WordPress is so important in content management. Of course, you're going to go with the United States, continue. If you're in another country, fine, go with that country. Now here we need to be careful. I must have given some information on how to go about this, but you can choose your own information here. It's not a must. Of course, you go with whatever information I have. You can choose your own site title. In this case, I'm going to call it AmazingDevOps. AmazingDevOps. Username, I'm going to call myself admin. And then I'm going to put my email there. And what I want you to do is that you have to be very careful, because we're going to be tempted again to log in. So the best thing I'll say is that copy this password or use a password that you like. And then, of course, I'm going to come here and I might put it somewhere I can remember. For this time, I'll put it here just for the sake. You can put it in the notepad, you can put it somewhere. Just put it somewhere you can remember, because we are going to use it often. Now you come back here and then you say, okay, I'm fine, install the WordPress. Yes, as you can see, you need now to log in. And to be able to log in, you need to put the username and you need to put the password that was created for you. And then, of course, log in. And now here we are. As you can see now, we are inside the WordPress itself. Up to this point, we are good to go. Now I don't need my password, however, keep yours. Mine, I'll just discard it, but I'll say keep yours. Clear this. Now, up to this point, we are done with our stack. However, I want to show you exactly how to manage data using the phpMyAdmin. phpMyAdmin is not part of the stack. However, it's very important interface, which is used a lot, especially by admin and also DevOps and also developers, of course, to manage the database, specifically the MySQL, because it's very user-friendly. So now, how do we do that? So we're going to come back here, and in the WordPress admin, we can find, I want you to come carefully and come to the plugins. In the plugin section, I want you to come to install to the, you can either, there is installed plugins, but I want us to add a new plugin. Good. In this section, I want us to search for a new plugin called phpMyAdmin. Enter, and there it is. Now, what you need to do